Yo, what's up guys, Teacher Paul over here, and today we are reacting to a coffee request. So this is a request by Maria, and she says, this is a video of the Norwegian prison system called the most humane prison in the world. And apparently this is in comparison to the whole world, obviously, but the title of the video says, Norway's prison versus America's prison, how Norway's prisons are different from America's. So let's check this out. Wait, not yet. Okay, where am I? Let's check this out. This is from a channel. Let me give a shout out to the channel if you guys want to go watch. NowThis link is in the description. Okay, if you want to go check it out. Let's go.
Staying in a maximum security prison is not a normal life, but that's also an ambition to reduce the feeling of being in a prison as much as possible.
And in here you have my cell.
Wait a second, he said staying in a maximum security prison is not a normal life, but this is not for normal people. This is for criminals, remember that.
So I have DVD and movies from there.
The basic question that we ask ourselves in Norway, what kind of neighbor do we really want? Because they could move into my neighborhood and they could move into your neighborhood. So I think this is an important question to ask ourselves, really. That should have an influence on how we work inside prisons.
Okay. The US has the largest incarcerated population, 655 out of 100,000. Norway only has 10% of that.
For the prison to judge or to punish, we have to interact and be human. I think it's as simple as that.
Okay. Learning from Norway is a big move that we could do. The most innovative prison in the world. Let's see the prison itself. The prison guard is saying that, you know, we need to treat them, the criminals, as humans, which is fair because, you know, they are humans, you know, that have committed a crime. But at the same time, I think the education in Norway is much superior than, you know, in other countries. So I think it all starts with education, and also the quality of living, quality of life in Norway is much superior. So, you know, that also falls into play. Not only the prison facilities itself, but let's keep going. Wow.
The most important thing is how we treat people. This is the 4 key elements that I would like you to remember. The principle of normality, the focus that we have in Norway on humanity inside prisons, what we call dynamic security, and the emphasis that we put on reintegration into society.
Okay. So they're focusing on really re-educating people to reintegrate them into society. That's what their focus is. Doesn't seem like they're focusing on the punishment, but they're focusing on kind of like a permanent solution, I think.
I would say the main goal of the trip is for inspiration to go bold back in the United States.
Okay. I think the president should do this as well. It's very important for presidents to go to other countries and extract the best from each country. Can you imagine if you get the best from each country? You're going to be the best country in the world because you have the best of everything all over the world.
More about Halden, how do we work, and what are the unique things about us?
Halden prison opened in 2010 and was designed specifically with the Norwegian philosophy. Philosophy of what? Sorry, I couldn't read it that fast. Of incarceration in mind. The world's most humane prison. That's a prison?
And in here you have my cell. So I have DVD and movies from there.
Wow.
Here we have a real toilet with a shower and everything. You know, you can see everybody have their key, so they can open or close to their doors whenever they want.
Even though it's
what?
nicer, it's still not a...
Wait, how is that? How are they incarcerated? It feels like they're in a 4-star hotel. They have their own key. They can go in and go out as they wish. Obviously, they cannot leave the prison, but they can leave their rooms. This feels kind of like not very different from COVID times. Because during the lockdown, you couldn't leave your house and that's it. But anyways, that's a dumb comparison. But
Summer camp,
let's see where this is going.
I would like you to, look beyond the facilities. It's not the most important thing.
Okay. The facilities are not the most important thing.
Every cell is similar. And here we have the kitchen, where I used to prepare the food. You can see here, it's inside here.
That's a really important
they have
principle
access
in
to the
Norway,
fridge.
which talks about that taking someone's liberty away and taking them away from their family, away from their community, that in of itself is the punishment. So life inside prisons should look as normal to life in the community as possible.
And in here, you have this
What?
washing room. You can wash the clothes and dry it.
Staying in a maximum security prison is not a normal life.
And I notice you're wearing just wearing normal.
I understand what they're getting to. It's not a normal life. I understand, but it's not a normal situation where people, he said it's a maximum security prison, which I would think that there are murderers and ARPists over there. You know what I'm saying? The R word. I don't want to say it because of, the whole ecosystem here. And pedos and a lot of different criminals go to maximum security prisons and heinous crimes. Are they the ones being treated with normality here? Because I don't feel like that's a punishment. Like, I know they lose their freedom, but some people who have, let's say, mental health don't even leave the facilities if they're in a mental institution, and then if they leave and commit a crime, it feels like they're being upgraded. Does that make any sense? And I understand that this makes sense and it works in Norway because I think, based on what I've been seeing, Norway has a very high quality of life. So what we are watching is unattractive to Norwegians. When Norwegians look at that and the idea of losing their liberty or living in a small room like that, that may seem unattractive, and maybe it may deter people from trying to, commit a crime and go to that prison. But for people like in my country, third world country, when they see that, it's not unattractive. That's better than the living conditions that most people on a minimum wage job is in Brazil, my country. And the fact that you have food at your disposal, like he can literally go to the fridge, and the fact that you have a room for yourself where you can go in, go out, you have DVDs. This is like a holiday, a paradise for some people who, who don't have access to food or access to good housing. And some people who are, living in, like homeless people living under the rain, you know what I'm saying? In the cold. So that looks like it's an attractive thing. So some people might even try to go to Norway, commit a crime, and because the prison looks so attractive. I would I don't know, guys. What do you think? I don't know how to feel about the facilities being so comfortable, because they're living in comfort. These people are committing crimes, but they're still living in comfort. And I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think I agree with that. I don't think that's That's something. And then some of you may say, look, it's working in Norway because the amount of incarcerations and reoffenders is very low, lower than other countries. I know it works for Norway, but as I said, when you have a system that your quality of living is very high, then these type of prisons, they look bad to you who are used to, having good life, good living conditions. But to someone who has nothing, when they see that, they're like, hey, going to prison is not that bad. So I can commit any crime I want. If I get caught, I'm going to go on a vacation. If I lose the liberty, I can still watch movies. I can still walk around, and, it doesn't feel like they're going to feel guilty or anything. So we're not finished watching the video yet, but what I hope happens in Norway is that they re-educate people, because the biggest problems in my country would be education. People don't have access to education, and they don't have access to good jobs, and then they start, going into situations where they have to provide for their, themselves, their family, if they have any. And this may not be something that happens in Norway, like gang crimes or drug trafficking, because in my country, there are some people who are trained from very young to become drug dealers, to become violent people, to become, protectors of their area. So they become violent, or they're trained to steal, or they're trained, at a very young age. So they would have to be re-educated, because that's all they know. So that's an issue that I don't think maybe Norway has. And another thing is, inside the prisons, they meet each other as, rival gangs, and then a lot of the facility officers or the correction officers, they will be in danger from these people who are basically, evil. I don't know. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, I understand that it works for Norway because Norway is a great country, so they're going to have great prisons. But what about a bad country with bad decisions? They're going to have bad prisons. But if you put a prison system like Norway's in a bad country without fixing the problem, I don't think it's going to last. I don't know. But then again, this video is Norway versus United States. So if you're from the United States, let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think it would work in the United States? And also, do you think as a Norwegian it would work in a third world country where all of these problems that I stated, like in Brazilian prisons, it's horrible. Like, there are gangs fighting each other. There are riots, beheadings. There are so many things that happen in these prisons that it's crazy, and you can't really treat them. You can't treat a hostile person calmly when they're trying to attack you. You know what I'm saying? I think they should treat them humanely, because if you watch a movie called Carandiru, you see what happened in Brazil, which is horrible. But at the same time, like, I think there should be balance. You shouldn't underestimate them, because there are some people who are definitely evil, and sometimes their head or their relapse or their mind, their what's the word that I'm looking for? When somebody stops taking drugs, it's not relapse. Relapse is when you go back to the drugs. It's withdrawal. Some people have withdrawal syndromes, and you can't reason with them. But anyways, let's watch the video. I'm very curious to see how Norway tackles these issues that I've mentioned, and if there are these issues, because there are some people that are not rational when they go through withdrawals, and all they want to do, and there's some people who are schizophrenic, you know. There are so many things. It's not all about I'm going to treat them humanely because they're humans. I know, but there's some situations where you need medical intervention, you need psychologists, and I'm interested to see if they tackled or they ran into these problems as well.
Yeah. That's allowed. You can wear whatever you want.
But that's also an ambition, to reduce the feeling of being in a prison as much as possible. That's the normality principle.
How you can...
Okay, now I know I'm talking too much, but it's just that I'm interested. He said that the mission is to make them not feel like they're in prison. So I think the principle of taking their freedom away is kind of nullified over here, because if you don't know or don't feel or don't remember that you are incarcerated, it kind of defeats the purpose, in my opinion. I know that I know that they are not free, but in their mind, if they're living as normal, then they kind of don't feel the remorse of what they have done, because they feel and live in a normal life, but with the exception that they don't have to pay, their rent or food or anything. So it's very interesting. I'm very interested to reading what the comments have to say about this, because it's a very different system.
How you can normalize the correctional setting for individuals to transition out. Bigger challenge in our system, but definitely something to think about. The commissary, the stores, where an individual actually gets to go to a real store and pick out commissary items. I think that's
they have groceries.
Adds to the normalization.
Wow. I understand the whole concept, but I have questions.
Dynamic security sounds like a very fancy thing, but it's really just having a normal interpersonal relations between the officers, or all staff really, and the inmates.
The role of the contact officer is...
Every inmate has a primary contact officer, and every officer had to have 2 or 3 inmates that he's the contact officer for. That was the ambition, from guard to also be a social worker.
Wow, full-time college to be a contact officer.
The main subjects at the academy: ethics, psychology, communication technique, criminology, law, human rights.
Wow.
Of course, they do learn self-defense. They do learn extraction techniques. They do learn to work as a team. But that's not, that's not the major components. It's about how do you treat people.
Okay, that worries me, because if Norway is not looking at criminals as a danger, he said that self-defense is not the main point here. So I'm starting to believe, and I hope that's true, that the criminals in Norway are not as violent as in other parts of the world. It feels like the criminals there are easy to handle, maybe someone who made a mistake and went to jail. Okay, maybe that's it. But when you're talking about cartel, people who dismember, when you're talking about evil people who torture, I don't want to get too graphic here, but you know what I'm saying? Bro, I know that, because Norway doesn't have the same issues. Let's talk about the United States. The United States has mass shootings, school shootings, and stuff like that. How would Norway treat a person that did that, and a person who is dangerous? How would they put them into this situation and treat them in a comfortable, normal life? Because they're not normal people. They are humans, but not normal. It's not normal. Well, maybe in the United States it is a little bit normal to see these things happen, which is very, very sad, very concerning. But you know what I'm saying? These things, I don't think it, in my opinion, I don't think it should be normalized, because it's not a normal situation. I'm not going to normalize somebody's violent nature, I'm always gonna have a step back, especially because there are reoffenders. But I'm not criticizing. I'm just trying to understand how this would work in other countries, because it's a very interesting concept and a very interesting thing that Norway has discovered. But I question if they have tackled the same issues from other countries. So this works very well for Norway, but as I said, the quality of life in Norway is much superior. So people would look at this and say, I don't want to go to prison. That doesn't look nice. But in other countries, they would look at that and say, hey, that's not that bad.
Respectfully.
My family always think that I just play games, because that's why I like very much to play games. So I often play cards and stuff with inmates.
I know in some states it's forbidden and will have consequences for you if you interact with inmates as a staff member. Quite the opposite here. We expect and demand an interaction between staff and inmates.
It's kind of friendship with some.
That's another thing. You trust the staff, which the staff should be corrupt free, right? But in some places, people get they get paid, they get bribed, they help the trafficking inside the prison. You see, like, that's something that may not be an issue in Norway, but in some parts of the world, some people are corrupt, even though they work for the police, even though they are correctional officers. Sometimes they are so underpaid that they take bribes and they do wrong stuff. So that's why it's prohibited to have contact. But I understand the whole idea here, the whole concept of Norway, and it's admirable. But I think it only works in Norway because Norway seems like the whole country as a whole is much better and much superior in many different aspects.
Someone and to see the progress and see the changes, that's the best way to job.
Reintegration.
The officer is, for example, sitting down with you and making you a future plan. So what for steps by steps to become a free man
from day one.
Yeah.
So the officers need to know everything about the system and give advice to the inmates about the future, what steps should they take. That's
great. That's a great thing, because a lot of reoffenders is because they couldn't find a job. Some people even try to find jobs and they go back to their old situation that made them commit crimes in the first place, and they are reoffenders because they don't have a structure to go to. They don't have a life to go back to, so they go back to the streets. And I think Norway is doing a great job with the integration system because they have a low reoffense rate. So, we need to take a page out of the book from Norway and what they're doing to actually rehabilitate and re-educate and reintegrate these these individuals that committed crimes. I think they're doing a great job with it there in Norway. Humanity.
Photos of my daughter, big love of my life.
Aww.
I've been here for 1.5 years, but I was transferred from a prison in Brazil. You can compare that to come from hell to heaven. So it's a big difference.
A huge difference. Okay, now I have a question for him. Does he listen to the question? Would he want to go back to a Brazilian prison? I think he'd say, heck no. Heck no, that is hell. And then he compared the Norwegian prison to heaven. And then I have the same question. Would you go back to a Norwegian prison? He probably would say, yeah, it's not that bad. And when people say, yeah, it's not that bad, they don't see the punishment as a punishment. They see the punishment as, hey, I'll just grind it out or work it out. But anyways, I'm not saying that's what he would say. I'm just saying that's the natural progression of the thought, that he sees a prison as heaven. And I understand that in this situation, he's saying Brazilian prisons are hell, so never go to prison in Brazil, and Norwegian prisons are like heaven. Of course, it's not compared to a free life. Do you get what I'm saying? I hope you get what I'm saying.
The guards, first of all. In Brazil, the guards are more you feel bad and weakness, the more they feel good. Here you have the guards, they were very kind to me when I came. They are still very kind. We can speak, they treat me as a human being. In Brazil, you get treated like an animal.
Yeah, I guess so. I've been working here since, Now I'm wondering, how did he go from Brazil to Norway? Like, what was the deal he made? And like, he has a great lawyer. What happened for him to go to Brazilian prison to Norwegian prison? And he hit the jackpot, because, as I said, if this is a prison that we're seeing, imagine Brazilian prison, bro. That is hell for sure.
I've been here since the opening in 2010, and I've been working other prisons before that also. It's not for the prison to judge or to punish, because the police catch the guy
and the judge is judged,
and it gets a sentence perhaps.
Correct.
And then it comes to prison with that. We have to interact and be human. I think it's as simple as that. It really is, because we can create walls between us, but that doesn't help anything.
Okay, he says it's as simple as that, but have you ever seen how some people who are under the influence of drugs, how they act? Some people are out of their psyche, and you can't reason with them, you can't talk to them. They just want to really cut your head off. Like, how do you find that simple? And I'm not saying, he doesn't have experience. He has much more experience than I have, obviously. But I've seen so many news, and also I have had friends who, who have been to prison. Well, not friends. They're not my friends, but people, acquaintances. Because I'm not friends with criminals. But in any case, you know what I'm saying. Friends of friends. I hear stories, and it is rough.
We have to communicate. We have to interact.
Without approaching people with respect and dignity, it's impossible to sit down the next day and talk about his future, because he will not have any trust in you. So in order to work well with reintegration and future planning, etc., there has to be a foundation there of trust between the staff and the inmates.
I find it admirable.
I've visited a lot of prisons in the United States as well, and somehow I don't have the same kind of feeling of relief of getting out of an impressive environment that I've experienced coming out of those prisons. I think that says something about how different the environment is here.
I think I have big opportunities here to prepare myself for the life after prison. I thought there is still hope. There is still opportunities, to get a good life after getting out. So, yeah.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Good for you. Here are my thoughts on this. I believe in second chances. I believe in treating people humanely. But my concerns are in situations where people don't want help, people don't want change. It's a hard situation. Like, there are some people who actually have mental illnesses, granted that I think this whole situation is in the perfect scenario, it's in the perfect and ideal world, and where people have been educated, people haven't, you know, gone through a rough life. I think that's the perfect scenario for that. But as I said in the beginning of the video, for people who grew up and were trained to be evil, how can you treat them, you know, with comfort? They won't have remorse in the first place. And if they look at this as, hey, I mean, in American prisons, there are people who say, hey, it's not that bad. I'll just come in, do my time, go out. And if I have to come back again, I will. There are some people who do that and reoffend. But I think the main takeaway from this video is there must be guidance. And as a teacher myself, I believe that people can change, can evolve, can learn. So I think that's what the whole idea behind this is: guidance, teaching, and making people better. Because I do believe in second chances, especially, you know, through Christ, for example. There are so many people who have changed their ways, you know, and I believe in that. I have seen people change their ways and be better people. I'm just wondering, because this video is a comparison between Norway's prison and America's prison, and I already pulled it into Brazilian prison, which is a third world country, and we know the problems with corruption, problems with drug use. We know these problems are there. It doesn't matter how beautiful a prison is, it doesn't matter how much you give a person, if they want to continue living in the life of addiction and violence, it doesn't matter what you do, they will still be the same person, they will still be agitated, they will still be aggressive. So in this video, I just can't see how that would work as it stands. I do believe that it could work in a third world country, but I think the problem is much deeper and starts much earlier in education. But guys, these are my thoughts, and this video was good. It really got me thinking, and when I think about topics, then, you know, it's a good experience to talk about the thoughts. But how do you think this could work in a third world situation, with all the problems that we have, with all the violence that we see, with people who are definitely heartless, but who still can have a second chance and can change, but sometimes they're just too chemically dependent, which is very sad, very, very unfortunate also. In any case, guys, that's it for today's video. If you want to request a video, link is in the description or the pinned comment. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Now you can get full access to exclusive content, special reactions to shows, series, anime, full movies, and even request a video of your choice. Just become a YouTube member or join Buy Me a Coffee today. Find out more, the link is in the description.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right.